Thank you. Welcome to the February 3rd meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2021 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20 until April 1st, 2022. This meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 707-117-688 hashtag, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. I will now call the roll. Make sure we have a quorum. Stephen Daniel.
I am here, thank you.
Tommy Doan.
Here.
Barbara Madison.
Here.
Joanne Sprague. Joanne Sprague. I know she's here.
Here.
Good, thank you, Joanne. John Whalen.
Here.
Here.
Yep.
Yep. Andy Young.
Here.
And the chair says here, and I declare that we have a quorum for the meeting. Our agenda today, the first item on the agenda will be a discussion of the airport revolving fund to increase their annual limit. This will be followed by our continuation of our budget presentation. We will hear from the police department and then proposed staffing changes. And finally, just an announcement about our meeting schedule going forward. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Alex Halela, our finance director. I ask everybody to please mute their microphones. And with that, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, in your packet, I provided a memo that we will be submitting also to the Select Board regarding an increase request to the Airport Revolving Fund. And I'll share my screen here because I have some items up here. So let me just get to that. And let's make sure I have the right one. It's thinking about it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, can you see this?
Not yet, not me. Okay, yes, now I can.
Okay. So the Airport Revolving Fund is established under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2. And the request today is to increase the limit, which was approved at town meeting, from $75,000 to $100,000. In order to do this, there has to be sufficient revenues to increase the amount. So I don't know if you can read this, but this was in the memo stating the statute 44, section 53E and a half allows that in any fiscal year, the limit on the amount that may be spent from a revolving fund may be increased with the approval of the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee in a town. This will be on the board's agenda for February 8th. But we thought since the Finance Committee is meeting today that we would present it today in advance of the Select Board meeting on Tuesday. The request came from the Airport Commission. They met on December 8th, 2021 and voted unanimously to recommend that the Select Board and Finance Committee increase the FY 2022 Airport Revolving Fund cap set in Article 5 at the May 8th. That should be the June town meeting. Sorry, I quoted the wrong one there. So again, as you might recall that town meeting set the limit at $75,000, and they're looking to increase it to 100. The beginning balance in the airport revolving fund was $94,821. That carries forward from year to year. If they have an expense limit of $75,000, they have not expended that much to date, but that's the limit. And they have revenue of $49,880.96, meaning they have available funds of $69,702 for which they could expend. So to increase the limit from $75,000 to $100,000, they have the funds available in order to do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions right now just on that item.
Are there any questions from the Finance Committee members? Okay, Alex, proceed.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Oh,
Huh?
so
A
certainly. Andy.
little late on the switch, but the Mass General Laws quote suggests that we have the ability to increase it. Do we also have the ability to decrease it?
No, it's not in the statute. Once town meeting votes, however, they don't have to spend the entire $75,000 that was allocated.
No, I understand that. I just.
Yeah. So no, the Mass General Law does not, allow for that. I think because the Airport Commission is sort of self-autonomous as well, they've requested the increase to the airport revolving fund, but again, it does require the two boards to vote that in the affirmative.
Do they have any other funds available that they could spend for these purposes?
No, there's no other funds available.
Okay.
And this is all from the revenues received at the airport that go into the airport revolving fund, and there's no taxpayer money contributing to this.
Right, thank you.
Joanne, you have a question?
Joanne?
Joanne, your hand's
Thank
up.
you, yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Alex, why the change? What has happened since the last threshold that we voted? What is how do they explain the need for an increase in this amount?
I will defer to the chair of the Airport Commission, Huntley Harrison.
Huntley, do you want to?
I'm right here. I'm here.
Go ahead.
Because of circumstances that are happening with regard to the airport and the necessary requirements of this fund, we have a contract with our engineering consultant, Gale Associates, for $17,000 because of the project that we're about to embark on for vegetation removal on various private properties for the approaches to the airport. Those trees are encroaching in the approach spaces. So our consultant is helping us with that. And for the initial scope of work for that, the bill is $17,000. We have also voted on the commission to engage a legal counsel. Again, the prime mover there is the vegetation removal project, in case we need legal counsel on that. And we did that. We would like to engage an external attorney so that just in case there may be conflict of interest with the town council. I don't think there ever would be, but just in case we wanted a total independent outside source. Also, an attorney who is well-versed in aviation issues.
Thank you, Huntley.
Well, no.
Go ahead.
A little more.
Okay, sure.
And we also have, for security purposes, $22,000, which we may have to spend for security cameras on the airport property. So those are the issues which will bring us above our $50,000 cap. It brings us, I think, maybe $1,000 over 100,000, but some of those figures are round figures, and we may not, utilize the whole thing. So we're very close.
Alex, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that we have talked to town council about the engagement with a separate council for the airport, and he's in agreement with this.
Alex, would you go, thank you very much, Huntley, for that explanation. And Alex, would you just go through again? You commented that no taxpayer money is used to for that revolving fund. Can you tell us how the revenues go into the revolving fund? What revenues go in there?
Yes, I'd be happy to. The revenues received from the airport for operations at the airport come from the lease agreement with the airport manager, and that goes into the revolving fund. There are also rental agreements for the T hangars, and those go into the revolving fund. So every year, the revenues come in, they stay with the revolving fund, and the expenses for the operations of the airport come out of the revolving fund. As you might be aware, previously, when there have been capital requests that do come from the tax levy, we segregate those out as separate articles at town meeting for full disclosure and discussion.
And you pointed out the other night that the revolving fund, the airport revolving fund, is audited, as is the town's, along with the town's finances every year. Is that correct?
That is correct. All the revolving funds are audited by our outside auditors. And I'd also like to point out, because the airport receives a lot of money in federal grants, if we receive over $750,000 in federal grants, we have to have a single audit. And that is also performed by the outside auditors. So that would be a separate report. And those are available on our website.
Any other questions? Alex, are you going to go on? You stopped in the middle, I think.
I think that was it. As I said, the request is to increase this from $75,000 to $100,000 for FY 2022. And we will be bringing this to the select board on Tuesday night.
Stephen.
Thank you, Florence. As it sounds like there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion, but we'll hold it in the event there are other questions to members of the committee.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, are there any other questions before Stephen makes the motion? Okay, Stephen, you're on.
Then I would like to recommend that the Finance Committee support the increase in the FY 2022 Airport Revolving Fund cap set in Article 5. Set at the May 17 town meeting to $100,000 from $75,000.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, we will, I'll take a roll call. Stephen?
I'm in favor, please.
Tommy?
In favor?
Barbara?
Yes, I support it.
Joanne? Joanne? You're shaking your head. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. John Whalen?
Yes.
Andy Young?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Thank you very much. Alex, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, we will now
Thank
move.
you. Florence, just
Thanks.
for my purposes, that was 7-0, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Huntley.
Okay, thank
We
you. I'm
will
just
now
going to share
move
my
to our
screen.
budget presentation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm going to share my screen just briefly before I turn this over to Chief Paulina. And we have the police department and the animal control department, which comes under the chief's purview. Pointing out here that this is in section 2 of your budget book. The total budget request for FY 2023 for salaries and expenses for the police department, $3,224,014. And I did supply an agenda report in your budget, which outlines some of these, but I will turn this over to the chief to discuss in detail and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, it's been our practice to go through as we're doing this, allow the chief to make some comments and then just go through the pages in the budget book. So if you get ready, your budget book for the police department, public safety is 2-1. But Mark, we will start with opening comments with you. Welcome, Chief Polina.
Okay, thank you, Florence, and good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see all of you, even though it's unfortunately not in person, but that's our situation as it continues to go with COVID. So better safe than sorry. So, but anyways, good to see all of you. And yeah, so this year I'm thinking you'll probably find the police department budget pretty uneventful, I'm hoping, because it pretty much is, which is, I think, a good thing. And I guess I'll start off with the basic increases are mostly all purely for contractual adjustments based on employee contracts, union contracts, as agreed to by the town. So that's where most of it is. And we do have some additional requests, a couple line items. The first one is for training, the training budget. We're looking at some additional funds there because we are in the process going to be hiring for a couple of positions. Right now we have 2 openings in the department. There's a very good potential for 3 openings coming up. One of those openings we're basically, it's a placeholder because we're, even though it is an opening, we are in, I guess, what you would call litigation with a former employee. So without going into too much detail with that, it's an open position, and we just have to hold it open for now and not be we just can't fill it just yet until the litigation is over. So, but in any event, we're looking at a very good likelihood of 3 openings, at least 3. So based on that, the tuition for police academy training now is, as it stands right now, is $4,800, $4,800 per student. And of course, times 3, we're looking at $14,400. So that is an increase in that line item. Another line item increase, obviously, we have to outfit, equip, and uniform new officers. And there's an expense of that, which is roughly overall between what they need for the academy purposes and to come on the job is about $3,000 a piece. So of course that's times 3 is $9,000. So those are the 2 actual increases we're looking at beyond just contractual type things. In terms of our, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else we're looking for beyond that. Animal control, we're again same thing. It's just contractual increase, as agreed to by the town. So that's in there as well, and that amounts to about $3,500. So just moving on to the capital budget items.
Mark, can you hold that? Let's do the budget and then we'll go to the cap. Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing else we're looking for. We know, that, the town's always looking to, maintain costs and expenses, as minimal as possible. And we're sticking with that, approach.
Okay, are there questions for Mark? We can start on page 2-1 if you wish. Mark, I guess I'll start by asking you, you said there are 3 openings. I know one is in litigation. So are these retirements or are people taking jobs in other places because the benefits are better or whatever? Why the openings?
Without going into a lot of detail, some of them are just, personnel type issues and
see.
decisions. And, but your question is a good one. It's very competitive right now. With the current state of, the situation with, law enforcement in general, in society right now, across this country, it has been a very difficult, difficult occupation. And a lot of young people with the economy, being what it is, jobs being plentiful out there. People like to move around a lot, especially younger people. They're looking for the best deal, the best benefit that they can get for themselves, which, to a certain extent, I can't blame them at all. But it's very competitive out there, and not just competitive with other police departments, but competitive with other occupations as well. And probably it's probably at a level competition-wise, at a level I don't think I've seen in many, many years. So, yeah, so it's a fair question. We have to remain competitive. Whatever the next round of contractual negotiations coming up with, which for the police department isn't going to be for another couple of years. But certainly it just seems like every time we, make a reasonable adjustment on the salaries, we get outpaced again. And, but it's just the nature of what it is. So, yeah, to answer your question in a nutshell, yeah, it's very competitive out there, and the town has to make sure we stay competitive.
Thank you, Mark. Stephen, your hand's been up. Stephen, your hand is up. Hello.
I'm working on it. Okay. I
okay.
think Barbara was before me, but if you'd like me to go while my mic is hot, I'm happy to do so.
Yes, go ahead. I didn't see Barbara.
All right. I have 3 questions. Mark, thank you as ever for your time and your thoughts on all of this. Is the intent, kind of with respect to these 2 spots, perhaps 3 spots, to kind of maintain the prior year force of 19 patrol officers?
Yeah, these are not additional positions. These are just filling openings. Yes.
Okay.
So we haven't asked for any additional positions since I've been the chief here, with the exception of our school resource officer position that was added, what 3 years ago or so.
3 years ago, yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. At the risk of raising Florence's ire, while I have you on the next page, one number that does jump out to me is the overtime figure.
Yeah,
which is up considerably over plan. Can you just speak to where that came from, or what the causality of that is, please?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we have openings right now. We have what amounts to we and again, I don't want to get into a lot of detail on this, but we do have an officer that's out on has been and going to be somewhat lengthy sick leave, medical leave, because of a medical situation. So when you add that to the openings that we do have, it basically amounts to about one entire shift that we are down.
Okay.
So when you start, looking at it from that perspective, that's basically a shift we have to fill. Being down, that many people,
right?
One entire shift. That's all got to, it's got to be backfilled, and that's what's caused the increase in the overtime.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for that. I have a question for Alex, but I guess before we let you go, any kind of thoughts or advice? You did note earlier in the meeting that this was going to be your last formal presentation to the finance committee, as you kind of look back in your tenure with the department and look into the future. Are there kind of things that we should bear in mind, that the town should bear in mind? Any reflections or observations that might benefit all of us?
Well, as purely from a finance committee view, budget point of view, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, I have not seen this level of competitiveness in terms of trying to get good qualified candidates. It's I'll just put it this way. A number of years ago, we would get as many as 85, 90 applicants for an opening.
Wow.
And realistically, there's probably only about, 20 to 25, real candidates in that batch. Our last opening that we announced for, we got 8. 8. So, in terms of, I mean, we lucked out because we ended up with 2 really good candidates, just by chance. And when we're looking to fill, one position, all we need is one good candidate. But when you have a pool that starts getting down to that low and that small, that's going to be an issue going forward. I think part of that is just, what's going on right now across the country and, with policing in general, and the sentiment that's out there from some of the, really bad situations that have occurred over the past couple of years. And, but that's, that bears watching, and that's going to be, a challenge. And the other item is just specifically body cameras are, a big issue that there's a committee that's looking at that on the state level in terms of who's going to pay for those. Are they going to be required by all officers, especially across the Commonwealth? And who's going to pay for it? But it's not the cost of the body camera so much, because those aren't terribly expensive, but it's the memory that's required to hold all the video. And it's the other issue with that is the amount of requests, public records request of seeing the video, getting copies of the videos. A lot of redaction has to take place, which requires a lot of technical expertise. So that's still in flux. I actually put that in next year's capital budget, not for this fiscal year, but for projecting ahead. I just, as a placeholder, put $100,000 in there for that. So again, but it's going to actually, the cost of that's probably going to be much more than that, because it's the cost of, personnel and technology, of managing and administering all that process as well. So that's something to watch. And technology in general, I think, is going to be, as always, I'm sure, as you've seen across all the departments in the town, technology is it's just never ending. It's always supposedly improving, but it just seems like it's getting more costly. But that
Mark,
bears watching as well.
to follow up with Stephen, before I call on other people, but just to follow up on this issue of feelings about the police across the country, as in terms of your projecting the future. I mean, do you see that in a town like Chatham? I mean, do you feel that people here still have respect for the police and the things that you have done in terms of community policing have impacted those feelings?
Yeah, Florence has a great question, and the answer is yes. I think Chatham is a very unique town in that I think we have a good close community here. I think we've made real good strides with over the years with community policing and partnerships within the community that we've developed, and I think we're in a very good position here you know, there is a lot of that, you know, some of that public sentiment that we do hear and we do see. That's not positive, but overall, I would say, you know, the town of Chatham and Chatham residents have been just outstanding in terms of their support for the police department. So I'm feel very comfortable and very confident about that. No question. And I think what has, though, just a little caveat to that, COVID has definitely, you know, hurt us in terms of, you know, outreach and interaction with the public. A lot of the events and things we've done over the years, we've had to scale back because of, you know, COVID situation, which was just really bad timing with everything else that's going on with policing, you know, across the country. So, but even with that, we're, you know, doing our best to stay in touch, you know, with folks through social media and, you know, other ways to, you know, to make sure we keep those bonds and, you know, keep those partnerships going with the community.
All right, Barbara, you had a question. Your hand was up.
Actually, I'm all set now. Thank you, Florence. But I would ask one little thing of Mark. Are those of us who took the police community,
Right.
I'm forgetting what it's called now, it's been so long, are we going to still get our ride-arounds? Our lunch, our final luncheon?
Yes, you are. I will make sure, but before I leave, you'll get your final luncheon, and you will get your opportunity to ride along with the officers.
Note to file.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Barbara.
I'll make sure of
Joanne,
that.
did you have your hand up? Joanne?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Chief, this is to you. Every day that you and your officers get your uniforms on and report for duty, you're putting your lives on the line to keep the rest of us safe. We want you to know that we are very grateful for your service, and thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Anyone else whose hand I don't see? Okay, Mark, on that first page, you, I'm just curious, you have 19 officers. How many male, how many female?
Right now, we have 3 female officers on the job. And that actually one of our latest hire was a female officer, Cassandra Wenzel, and she's doing a great job. She's our newest officer, and she's, you know, she speaks a few different languages. She's just got a really good positive spirit about her, and I hope you get to meet her at some point, because she's really done a good job.
Now, are there women going into law enforcement in greater numbers than in the past?
Oh yeah, I think so. You know, generally yes, and actually 2 of our more recent hires, women. Elizabeth Thompson, Officer Elizabeth Thompson, is also a fairly recent hire. Been on a couple of years now, so she's also done a good job. She was actually our first graduate from the Cape Cod Police Academy.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Moving on to any questions on page 3-2? I have a question. There's a funny, under your overtime line, it's 5130 going down overtime union. It's like, it's the column, the 4th column, Alex, FY 2022 year to date, 2,013,210.
Nope.
Where?
That is definitely a typo in there. I noticed that when I was
Okay.
looking through the budget the other day, and I should have corrected that. Let me just
Okay.
look here and I can tell you exactly what it is. And year to date on the overtime is $201,310.
Okay, thank you. I wondered, it kind of stuck out there. Anything else on page 3? Yep, 3-2. Anyone? Joanne, is your hand up? Joanne? Hello? No, she just Joanne, did you have a question on that page?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, going on page 3, anybody? Okay, going on, the rest of the next 2 pages were the Quinn and the salaries. And Mark, is there when you hire a new officer, what's the starting Quinn pay? Is there one
Actually,
single figure?
Actually, new officers do not receive Quinn pay.
Oh.
New officers receive, a number of years ago, we changed it for, we grandfathered in the officers who already had the Quinn bill, but new hires are hired based upon a stipend, educational stipend, as opposed to the Quinn bill.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
And I'm sorry, Florence, it's $5,000 a year stipend for new officers, for the educational stipend.
And that will be for all new hires going forward?
As of right now, yes, it's at $5,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
and
other, yes,
I'm sorry, I was going to say that's built into the contract. And then once they've been here a number of years, it does increase for some of the officers, and it is dependent on, because we had some officers that had 5,000, and now they're getting 7,500 or 10,000. So that's an incentive to keep them here as well.
okay. Any
try to-
other questions going through to the end, which ends on page 27? All right,
Florence, I have
Any-
a question for Alex, please.
yes, go ahead.
Alex, just bouncing back, please, to the first page, if I could. I think the number that you had in your slide was somewhat at variance with the figure that is actually in the budget book on section 2, page 1 for the total police spend. Can we just double check the FY23 department request?
The department request,
And
again, in the budget book, the department request is the 3,165,000 plus the supplemental requests that are listed that the chief had talked about, the 73,400.
Yep.
So
So what is it? What's the total on that then?
that would be the 3,238,995.
Okay, so that is
Oh.
different because we've got
Okay.
3,215.
Yeah, as we look through and move through the budget process, and sometimes these numbers might change with change of personnel, but we try to leave them the same unless we have are lucky enough to fill some of the vacancies prior to setting the budget, then we would put those numbers in.
Understood. So again, then the department request is 3,238. What?
995.
95.
Thank you.
Any
Okay,
other questions
that's it.
for
Thanks.
Mark on the budget? All right, Mark, we can now move to the capital. Are there any questions about animal control? Sorry. If not, we'll move to the capital, which is on page 10-9. And Mark, you were going to start and I cut you off, so go ahead, talk to the capital on 10-9.
Okay, yes, thank you, Florence. Our capital requests are the typical 2 annual replacement cruisers at $94,000 total. And a replacement of what's called a computer sonic wall. It helps maintain security with our computer system from breaches and hackers and et cetera. It's a little bit different than what the like, for example, with the town website or would have. It's additional security because of we have a completely different records system, storage system, computerized system than the other town departments do. And a lot of that information is confidential and some of it's protected by law. So we have to make sure that we have a good level of security with that. So the current sonic wall is about 11 years old and it is badly needing of being updated. So that's about a cost of about $10,000.
Where is that?
And then we also,
I don't see it.
I'm sorry.
That's
amendment?
on page 10-2 under the police department, and then the equipment and vehicles are under, beginning on page 10-9.
Okay, yeah, that was 10-2. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then
Go ahead.
we do have a $40,000 replacement of the animal control van. The van is about 10 years old now, and it's just beginning to start in the process of needing some expensive repairs. And of course, we always are concerned about vehicles when they start hitting that point where, you know, we start having to deal with a lot of repairs and downtime with the vehicle. And so at this point, we're in need of replacing the animal control van. And then I did put in there a $50,000 for an electric vehicle replacement of our unmarked court/detective vehicle. As I told Alex and the town manager, this is, you know, not a high priority, but I think, you know, it depends what the town's desire is for moving in a direction of cleaner and greener vehicles. That is a vehicle, type of vehicle that we could manage in terms of being a full plug-in electric vehicle. For patrol cars, you know, plug-in electric vehicles don't make a lot of sense right at the moment because of the amount of charge time that's required on them. But for that type of vehicle, for that purpose, that would be a good potential vehicle to replace with an electric vehicle. But again, that was, you know, depends what the town's appetite is for, you know, wanting to make that move to, you know, cleaner, greener electric type vehicles.
Alex, is there a
Mark.
line item on that request?
No, I don't see it in there. I'm looking at that, so I'm not sure what
Yeah,
happened
I didn't
with
see that there.
that one. And also, I just want to point out that the chief had requested the annual cruiser replacement at $94,000. And just with some of the issues with, you know, getting vehicles at this time and the prices going up, the town manager and I reviewed it, and so it's $100,000 for those two, so $50,000 each.
Mark, do you have any charging stations at the police department at this point?
We don't right at the moment, but there, my understanding is Terry Whalen is in the process of working towards getting charging stations for the rear of the in the back of the police station, and I believe as well for the to also be utilized by the town annex employees if they need it as well. And I believe at some point they're, you know, the intention is they're going to be solar power stations.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Mark at all for any part of the budget or capital? Mark, is there anything else you want to say to us?
No, I just want to say thank you for the support and for, you know, your patience of, you know, allowing me to explain all the different costs and you know, increases that do come up from, you know, typically come up every year. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. And it's been really great working with all of you. And this is going to be my last budget finance committee meeting. So again, thank you for the opportunity to serve all of you, and I've really enjoyed it.
Mark, thank you for all of your service, not just from the finance committee, but I'm sure you will be hearing a lot about it as the year goes on before you leave here. But we thank you for all your service and all you have done for the town of Chatham. And, you know, I believe that you have built a police department that is respected because you command that kind of respect from your the people who work with you. And so the town has given it to you too. And so we appreciate all that you've done. John, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did, Madam Chairman. Mark, I'm concerned about the vacancies. How soon will we be filling? It sounds like potentially three vacancies out of 19 offices. is a high percentage, and it would put a lot of pressure on the existing officers. How soon are we likely to fulfill the replacement of those vacancies?
Yeah, John, the notice is going to be going out within, a week or so. We're going to be collecting resumes as they come in, interviewing people, and then we hope to get folks into the next police academy up in Plymouth, because that's the next one that's coming up in the spring. So we probably wouldn't have, assuming we'd be able to do that, the officers wouldn't be on the road until, the fall. So we, have to get through the summer without them, but that would be the timeline.
Mark, if you hire a police officer replacement that already is a police officer, do they have to go to the academy?
No, they do not.
Oh,
And
okay.
we actually, in our advertisement, it will make it very clear we're accepting previously certified officers from the Commonwealth, and that they will also go to a higher pay rate as well because of their experience and the fact that we don't have to send them to the academy.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
No questions.
Yeah.
Just wanted to thank Mark, as you did, Florence, for everything you've done, Mark, for this community, and that your team has done for this community. Thank you very much.
And good luck to you for whatever you do. We hope you don't leave Chatham.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Alex?
Okay, yes, you had requested to see the proposed staffing changes, so I'm ready to share my screen again so we can run through the staffing changes. And I'd like to point out that this includes both the additional full-time equivalents that you've heard about, as well as some of the changes that we've made in moving some of the staff around. And let's see where I'm at. And okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, new staffing requests contained within the budget and is described in the town manager's budget message. We're requesting 7.5 new full-time equivalents. So again, 7 FTEs. And again, we're trying to, invest our employees as we feel that is an investment for the future moving forward. For the operating budget, the proposed staffing, these are the new additional employees. And I'm sure we ran over these before, but I'm going to point them out. 1 full-time equivalent media assistant, IT assistant, and the fiscal impact of that is about $46,000. That's for IT Channel 18. In community development, we're looking for 1 full-time equivalent, a housing and sustainability director. The impact of that is $92,686, probably moving the current principal planner into that housing and sustainability director position, as that is an area in which she's very interested and qualified for, and then would backfill the principal planner position. The fire department has requested 2 new firefighter EMT paramedics, so a total of $122,420, as well as a part-time administrative assistant, so $25,000. So I will hold right here before I go to the next slide.
Do they currently have an administrative assistant in the fire department? I didn't look to check that, Alex.
No, they don't. We had an employee there who retired, I believe, back in 2012, and that position has not been filled. So basically, it's the chief and deputy chief who are doing a lot of the administrative duties, and that's taken away from their time that could be better spent elsewhere. And I'm sure they will address these requests when they come in and present their budgets to you directly. And I see a couple hands up.
Yeah, Joanne, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Alex, can you give us an average with each of these positions of the cost of the medical benefits, please, or the benefits package, please?
Yeah, I actually have that, a slide on that towards the end, but we estimate that additional employees will be about $15,000 for benefits, assuming that they would take a family plan on the benefits.
So that's for each one of these positions, you're saying?
That's what we estimate, and we have enough in the health insurance line item as budgeted right now that would cover these.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have a slide on that, so.
Who else had their hand up? Anyone else?
John Whalen's hand is still up. I'm not sure if that's from before.
Joanne, did you have another question?
No, my
No.
hand's not up.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I have a question on that full housing and sustainability director. And I think we asked you this. Currently, there is a part-time housing coordinator position that we have funded through the CPA and that
Correct.
we share with Harwich. I read that Harwich is not planning to hire a full-time housing coordinator, so they're not going to need that. Are we going, will this position cover that? Will we also not request the part-time person from using CPA funds?
There is an application into CPA right now for $30,000, and that's probably going to be a transition to, assist with some of those duties until we can backfill the principal planner position.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, go on, Alex. Next slide.
Okay. For natural resources in the conservation division, the request is for an assistant conservation agent wetlands permit coordinator. That full-time position would be $61,470. We're still checking with the department whether that will be a full-time or a part-time position. And that would be offset from the Wetlands Protection Fund, or if it is a part-time position, fully funded from the Wetlands Protection Fund. But at this time, it's in as a full-time equivalent. And again, we're checking on that with the department head, and Dr. Bob will be happy to discuss exactly the need for that position. And I see Stephen Daniels' hand is up.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Alex. What is the source of the funds into the Wetlands Protection Fund, please?
That comes from the conservation, the permits, the wetlands permits. So those go in there, and that can be used for staffing.
Very good. Thank you.
Joanne, you had a question?
Yes, Madam Chair. I guess my question was similar to Stephen's. So we can count on the wetlands protection money to be permanent?
Yeah, that money is comes in every single year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go on, Alex. This is you.
Okay.
The DPW position is a laborer.
Yep, DPW, we're adding one full-time laborer, full-time equivalent, so laborer to the Parks and Grounds Division, specifically to assist with cemeteries and looking at bringing the cemetery maintenance in-house. Now, we know that cemeteries won't be year-round. However, there are other items which they can assist with under the DPW during the off-season. But again, cemeteries are a focus moving forward. And then we would reduce the cemetery maintenance line item as an offset, but I have a slide on that as well.
You do? Okay, I wanted to know how much would be offset. Okay, any other questions on this slide? Anyone? No. Seeing none, Alex, go on.
Okay. All right, so the next is staffing changes. So these are the requested changes and increase in hours. And this is for existing staff. So again, not any new positions here, but just changes. And the first one is a good example. In the DPW department, we're requesting increases in hours for the cemetery administrator, going from 15 hours to 19 hours. Again, that would be a non-benefited position because it's below 20 hours a week. So a small fiscal impact of $4,120. And we actually have brought back the former cemetery administrator who is filling in right now to assist us with Dan Tobin leaving. We don't want to get a backlog for the cemetery, so Dee Schippelhood is back assisting with those duties.
Okay, so that's not an open position. Somebody is in that position.
She's in that position now, but it probably will become open again. I'm not sure if she's planning to stay for, permanently or not. And then the DPW department, the principal projects and principal projects operations projects assistant. So again, we have a vacant position in the recreation and beaches department for the recreation coordinator. And that would be moving over within the DPW department to the principal projects and operations as an assistant to help Terry Whalen with all the projects that the town is looking to do. So that would be a PPO administrator. There's no impact on fiscal impact, as that money would have been budgeted under recreation. It's now just being budgeted in a different area of DPW. And then more under DPW, as I talked about before, the parks and grounds, specifically cemetery. We're adding one laborer, but we're also moving 2 vacant custodial positions to parks and grounds as laborers to assist with those cemeteries, so we can bring that service in-house.
And that's where the offset will be with the contracted maintenance that we currently do?
The contracted maintenance will be in the cemetery department under DPW, yes. And we're looking at cutting half of that cutting that down in half for next year, because we might have some carryover into the new fiscal year.
Any questions from the committee on this slide?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go on, Joanne.
Alex, can you email us a copy of these?
Yes, I will.
That's wonderful. The chart you're giving us be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on a little bit for the next slide. As we know, DPW Director Dan Tobin has retired. So we're looking at whenever anyone retires, we always look at the position, what's the best way to refill it. So the Recreation and Beaches Director, the retirement of a long-term employee, we reevaluated the job description and salary. And for FY 2023, there'll be a savings of just over $48,000 due to looking at the duties and responsibilities of the new position, the rewritten position.
How can you make that so clear? I mean, a specific 48,580. You're looking to fill that position. Are you saying this is what we know we can pay for that position? How do you calculate that there's going to be a saving of $48,580?
The previous incumbent was at the highest step of the highest grade. With moving the cemeteries over to DPW, as well as some other responsibilities under Tom Temple in the Department of Public Works, this position is looking at being a grade 11 instead of a grade 15. So, and plus, because Dan had been here and was at the top step, we can safely say that we can save this amount of money.
Is there going to be a job description that we can see at some point?
Yes. Yeah, we will have the job descriptions.
And I think, Alex, for the benefit of the committee, I think it was yesterday that you circulated a Jill's note from 21 January, which contains the detail around this on page 2 of the 4-page memo. So if the committee is looking for detail, it's embedded there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sticking with DPW, the facilities, we're looking to reassign the custodial position to a facilities technician. Again, that would be an increase, different grade, but really no fiscal impact, as the person would be placed on basically around the same salary that they had as a custodial position, but they'll be the facilities technician, slightly higher. I think it's about $100 difference for next year from what was budgeted.
Is this somebody who's already in the position?
This is a current position, current employee who's in the custodial position, and we look to put him into the facilities technician position. And again, that would better address some of the needs of the town. And then for natural resources, this is looking to increase the current health inspector from a part-time to full-time. So this does have the fiscal impact, $32,400. And now this person would be benefited, but I have included that in the benefit estimate that I have coming up in a couple slides.
Any comments or questions on this set of on this slide?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, go on, Joanne.
Alex, I know I'm going overboard a little bit with this, but when you say, for instance, the DPW Recreation and Beaches Director, fiscal impact is a minus 48,580. Do we ever figure in what the long-term fiscal impact is, and with the retirement and benefits along the line? Is
this person would be eligible for benefits, so we'd be filling this position just at a lower salary. So they still would be benefit eligible, but again, that would be a wash because the current incumbent has benefits. And then with the salaries, our retirement assessment is based on our salaries, so there might be some savings. However, adding staff does impact that as well, but I have a slide on that.
I guess what I'm saying is that the cost of that employee does not really completely go away through the years, because we have to, and I'm thinking of OPEB, you're thinking of the retirement benefits and retirement, medical and retirement benefits ultimately. I know
Correct.
I'm getting exotic over that, but isn't that true? Ultimately, we still have a responsibility for that employee, a fiscal responsibility.
And that has already been included in our OPEB liability. So because that employee is here, now when we replace that employee, because again, long-serving employee, OPEB, the actuaries calculate expected lifetime, how long they're going to be on which plan. If we have someone who is going to turn 65 fairly soon or already has turned 65, then once they retire, they can go on Medicare and a Medix plan, which costs the town less.
I see. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alex, isn't that really the best way to look at these numbers here? Is this is just a snapshot, a one-year snapshot in time, right? We're replacing somebody who's currently making $142,000 with somebody who's going to be making $94,000, hence a saving of $48,000. So this isn't sort of a balance sheet per se, looking over years and years of accruals. This is simply a one-year impact of these proposed changes, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on. As you know, we have a vacant position for the COA director, so we are looking to fill that with the Director of Community Services, Council on Aging. This is a vacant position. This was part of the administrative order when we reevaluated the job description and salary. So the salary is increasing as it was. We need to make sure, and I think somebody mentioned it before, that we can attract people, attract our employees, and have qualified employees to fill these positions. So this is a replacement of the employee, however, at a higher salary moving forward.
Yeah, I know you sent us, and Stephen referred to it, the memo explaining all of this. I just need some more maybe filling out of exactly what this position, even though I read it several times, I'm not clear about exactly what this Director of Community Services / COA would do, who they would replace, whether it would impact other employees. So I read it several times. I just guess I need more clarification on this one, Alex.
No, I see Jill's on the line if she'd like to chime
okay,
in.
right. Jill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you might know, Mandy Speakman was the COA director. But she also had another role that was beyond serving the seniors, and it related to human services. And so she was the staff liaison to the Human Services Committee. And you've seen their budget and the number of partners that they help fund. So that's the total community. So she assisted with that, as well as working on initiatives like for the child care voucher program. So all of this had a human services component. I'm suggesting a community services department, as that's the trend moving forward for having a community services for the entire community, and having a point person to also coordinate between other divisions and departments. So the COA director does more than just managing the COA building. That position's involved in a lot of our internal committees that we have for public safety, a lot of the emergency management planning, as well as what we're seeing throughout the Cape is that there's been a significant number of retirements of Council on Aging directors. And from our research, we found that the community service director title and functions are somewhat, I would say, a little more rewarding and well-rounded, but I'm also looking for a person who does have a degree in gerontology, so we don't lose any of the services and leadership of the Council on Aging. However, we rebrand it, so still involved heavily with senior services. And the reason that I wanted the Director of Recreation and Beaches to report to the Director of Community Services / COAs, I think there needs to be a closer connection with all of the offerings that we offer for the community, not just recreation, but for enrichment programs as well. And I've seen a few examples in other communities off Cape, and there's a couple communities on Cape that are looking at this as well. And so I just thought it would provide a more well-rounded service to the entire community. And we do have a job description that's under review right now with the union. It's not confidential, so we could certainly share it. And hopefully that will lay out some broader categories of duties and functions, but it won't list every duty and function that any position would hold.
Stephen, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Florence. Jill, you may have just touched on this. I'm referring to page 2 of the memo from 21 January. There's an element of that is somewhat abstract as we look at boxes and charts and pluses and minuses and people going here and people going there. At least it's a little abstract perhaps to me from time to time. You note on page 2 that the overarching goal of this administrative order is to enhance the services currently provided by the town by creating efficiencies and areas of collaboration which support growth and innovation in Chatham's provision of services to its residents. Again, you may have just kind of touched on that in what you did to Florence, but I guess how do you see the chess pieces that are specifically referenced in Alex's charts here getting moved from here to there, resulting in the goal you're looking for?
So I think there's also an org chart in the administrative order. It's in a way requiring collaboration between recreation and senior services by this. Not to say that it didn't happen before, but we do have a recreation coordinator who's also the youth services coordinator. And again, I think that the legacy of Parks and Recreation has been more parks focused versus recreation. And so again, not saying that anything was not done properly, but I think even with the Chatham 365 initiatives, we need to really look at the community holistically and be creative about it. And I think with this reporting relationship provides an opportunity for collaboration without duplication, and also also keying in some housing advocacy. I think there could be that connection with the housing and sustainability director. I'm not sure if you talked about it yet. So I just think that it provides a job description that pretty much matches what the former employees did most or prioritized. It just hopefully too will give the community more direction on who they can contact by way of a job title. We also have a couple of vacancies in the Council on Aging right now, the department. We have the receptionist is vacant, and then we've had some trouble recruiting for the COA programs and communications coordinator. And so right now we're working with that union, which is a separate union, about potentially reviewing the job description and if there's a reclassification that's needed to reflect the duties that are needed. All of that is part of the process, but that does not require an administrative order. That's an internal function that we're working on.
Okay, I think that's very helpful. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So Jill, to follow up, the current director of Parks and Rec, Dan Tobin, is retiring. You've taken Parks out of that role.
Yeah, that came out in January 2020, right around right before we worked on with COVID. So I had already moved that over the parks functions over to DPW.
DPW.
They already operated out of DPW anyway, and
Okay.
the work orders came through there.
So all recreation activities that's at the community center and all the beaches would be under this new job description, that it would be the director of recreation and beaches.
Yes.
Okay. And that's your $48,000 saving. Any other questions? Can we, yes, I see John Whalen's hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Jill, it sounds like with no community a Council of Aging director and other vacancies, it sounds like there's no one really on duty at the Council of Aging. Is that the case, or do we have people there who are keeping it going as we go day to day?
Sorry, that's not the case. And the COA is very relevant and it remains relevant. So we do have an interim COA director. That's Eva. She's our outreach director. So she's been serving as the interim director since the end of November. And then we have a superstar administrative assistant, Deb Mayhew, who's there. And she also helps with dispatching the Council on Aging van drivers and bus drivers. But it's the time of year that makes only having 2 members of the team there workable, but we're going to start to ramp up pretty soon. And so again, we're looking to fill those other positions. Definitely there's no reduction in those positions. And depending on what the select board wants to do with the Council on Aging and where to locate it, I still think that we're going to need a full team to handle senior services and provide the level of outreach that is expected and the level of programming. Where it's going to be programmed, that depends. It could be at the existing new facility or at the community center, maybe for more active programs. So you'll see some programming next month from the COA at the community center. So that's happening, but that's not to say that we don't need a community center or we don't need a COA center too.
Any other questions? I have a question as it relates to what's in the budget book on page 72, in that you have Director of Community Services, in parentheses, Senior Services, and under it, the Recreation and Beaches Director. So am I seeing this correctly? The Recreation and Beaches Director will report to the Director of Community Services?
Yes, and when we were writing the budget message and finalizing the budget narratives, the COA Board of Directors was about to embark upon a rebranding, and we weren't sure where they were going to go with that. So that's why you'll see COA and Senior Services interchangeably, because we really weren't sure what that rebranding was going to look like.
So how do you have one director reporting to another director? Is that?
It's sort of a legacy thing in Chatham, because we have the Coastal Resources Director reporting to the Natural Resources Director.
I see.
So, so Dan was a direct report to me as the town manager, and through this reorganization, that position as the Beaches and Recreation and Beaches Director will report to the Community Services Director, and both are vacant.
Barbara,
Just possibly devilish observation that it seems to me if the community service director and the COA director are going to be the same person, how much handier if they were sharing one building.
all right. Any, let's see, Barbara, any other, does anyone else have any comments? We could look at that since we have Jill here, that town organization chart. It goes along with what we're talking about. There's no change then, Jill, in the Community Development Department, Director, Community Development Department.
No, the only change in that department is creating a housing and sustainability director.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if you talked about that. That's the only change. I had originally, when we had a meeting with the board on January 3rd, I wanted to get their input on what they thought about potentially having an assistant town manager. And that I had thought to have the director of community development serve in that capacity, since she does a lot of project leadership outside of her department and division. And what I heard from the board at that time is they thought that if we did go the assistant town manager route, that person should probably not have any direct reports or have another obligation to a department to manage it. Just as someone is more, I don't want to say free flowing, but where we could allocate for the projects, we can have that person work on the projects as needed without having to have to run their own division or department.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions on any of this, any of the staff positions, any of the increases that we have
Thank
seen?
you.
Nobody? Okay. Alex, is that it, or?
That's it. I know I had mentioned some of the offsets to some of these changes, so
Oh,
not
okay, before
100.
you do that, Jill, do you have any other comments? Jill? That you want us? Jill?
I'm sorry, I just turned away. I didn't hear what you said.
No, I said, do you have any other comments before we move on? Stephen, you had a
Just
question?
happy I know you're working to digest all of this, and so if you have any other questions, just let me know and I'll come back. And if there's more documentation, I'm happy to provide it.
Stephen, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, yes, I just want to clarify it. It doesn't seem to me, based on the presentation or the materials that we've been provided with, that I think specific action is required by us at this point in time. I just want to confirm that this is more just for our edification and more to come as the budget rolls out.
For the administrative order, that, yes,
Yeah.
but there's the fiscal impact for 23, that's within your realm, yes.
Right, that's embedded in the budget that's being,
Right,
you know,
right.
it's rolling out and we're going through. Okay, thank you.
Our interest is in the increased 7.5 full-time equivalent positions. Now, what will happen? Does the board have to vote on this administrative reorganization, Jill? Or approve it, I guess. They don't have to vote on it.
Yeah, so it's effective 30 days after the filing,
Right.
and that would be February 22nd, unless sooner rejected or affirmed. And so I know there's been a request by the Council on Aging board chair that the board take this up. She's in favor of it to vote, but I just haven't finalized the scheduling yet with the select board chair.
Thank you. Any other, Stephen, is your hand still up? No, okay. Okay, again, thank you, Jill, for coming, and appreciate your offer to come back if need be. Thank you. All right, Alex, going on.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as I mentioned, we highlighted some of the offsets, both positive and negative to the budget for some of these reallocations. So looking at the DPW, the cemetery division, we're cutting the grounds maintenance budget line down by $56,000. Again, we're keeping some of that in there to carry us through the first few months of the new fiscal year, FY 2023. In conservation, again, 50% coming from Wetlands Protection Fund, so that's $30,735. However, on the other side, the DPW, if we outsource the custodial services, since we're not having custodians, they've been transferred over to laborers, we have to increase that line item by 180,000 to cover those custodial services.
Any questions on this?
Okay.
Okay.
And then Joanne's favorite slide, the estimated benefits cost. Again, this is estimated, looking at, full-time equivalents. If they were to take a family health plan, that's approximately $15,000 each. So that's 120,000. Medicare is, just a very small amount based on the salaries. And then our retirement assessment is based on the total salaries of town employees as of October 31st or November 1st. And just to note, the town employees contribute 9 to 11% towards their retirement. So I always like to point that out because, again, we do get the retirement assessment, but it's based on the overall salaries.
Thanks, Alex.
Yes, go ahead, Joanne.
No, I just said thank you to Alex, and
Oh.
I'm looking forward to getting a copy of these slides. That would be so helpful. But
Yep.
Thank you. This is a lot to digest, but you've given us all the information we need. I just need to go over it some more. Thank you.
Does
Welcome.
anyone have any questions on that previous slide before Alex moves on?
Excuse me.
Okay.
Okay. So your next meetings, I have Natural Resources and Community Development coming in on February 9th. There is no meeting on the 10th. And then on February 16th, a pretty big, large meeting with Fire Department coming in, as well as the Department of Public Works.
Yes, and we're aiming, remember, for February 22nd is the date we're due to report, file our
Correct.
report with the select board on our initial concerns, issues, or whatever we want to say about the budget to date, to that point.
At this
Yes.
point, February 17th is open to sort
Right.
of talk about some of those issues. And also, if you needed to hear back from anybody, we could probably get them in. So let us know.
Is there anybody that isn't listed that we haven't heard from that you want to be sure we hear from before the 17th? Stephen, your hand's up.
Well, I just wanted to note that I am unlikely to be available on the 9th,
Okay.
just for quorum keeping purposes.
Yeah, I've been keeping track and I think we're going to be okay. That's why we eliminated the 10th, but we're good on the 9th. So thank you for telling me that. So as you look through the budget book, is there anything that you want to be sure we know about, hear about? John Whalen, your hand's up.
Yes, Alex, do we intend to have Scott Carpenter in to see us at any point in the near future?
Is it going to be in this first round? Good question.
Yeah, I can reach out, just have the school committee come before you. I was not planning on that before February, as usually, they have to vote on their budget. Moving forward, they just got the health insurance numbers, so they'll be looking to revise the budget, but we will get the schools into you probably sometime in late February, early March.
Yeah, we usually don't do that in the first round, John. We have to wait. And now, of course, there's the extra piece of our own elementary school, which is a whole other addition to the budget. Anything else? John, thank you. Anyone else have anything in the budget book? If there's anything in there that you go through and that you feel that we need to be sure to address before the 17th, you can let Alex know, and I'm sure she'll take care of it. With that, today I won't forget, Andy, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a
Seconded.
I will thank you all, by the way, and Stephen, so glad to have you with us. And so I will call the roll for a motion to adjourn. Stephen?
Support.
Tommy Doan?
Yes.
Barbara Madison?
Yes.
Joanne Sprague?
Yes.
John Whalen?
Yes.
Andy Young?
Yes.
And the chair says yes, and our meeting is adjourned, and I hope everybody has a good, healthy, safe weekend.
Thank you,
Florence.
everybody. Nice to see you all.